how safe it is. As we got off onto the break, we're asking, okay, so the food that we are eating, or the food that's being grown and the food that we are consuming, in terms of value, is wanting. How do we know this? If I walk to the market and I'm buying something, how do I pick up a carrot? Or how do I pick up a bunch of spinach and know, well, okay, this is lacking in the nutrients because of how it was grown? How do you do that?
Good question. Now, it's indeed a challenge, because we need to appreciate that the food we have, the food we eat, is grown in a manner that is healthy for consumption. So it's a hard question to do it. But for example, like the Sylvia basket, what Sylvia is doing, she's able to aggregate food that is safe, food that has been grown organically, and she's able to meet the market and to meet the demand. So what I would say is that it's a transformative change whereby we will move on as a country to be able to embrace food that has been grown in a very safe and sustainable manner, that embrace the principles of agroecology, food that is grown in a manner that we can all appreciate that it's safe. So for now, actually it's a challenge, because me and you will go to supermarket. We have no control measures on what we are going to buy in terms of quality, in terms of safetiness, when it comes to health issues. So it's still a challenge. And this way we are saying that we need to create more awareness among our farmers, and also look at what incentivizes them to embrace growing of food that is safe in principle. Yeah.
So Sylvia, we have you here, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay, now you.
I feel like you're going to put me on the spot here.
Yes, I am.
He's already raised the knife. You're on the chopping board.
I know, but I'm actually on the chopping board.
No, I'm not going to put you on the spot. I just want to ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you produce safe food, and someone asks you to provide evidence as to the safety you claim, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, so basically, we have systems and mechanisms, because we can't just have hearsay or just speak to it. So we basically work with different organizations. So we have different ways in which we can actually be able to make sure our food is certified as safe. So one way that works very well for farmers is we normally train the farmers through an organized forum, which is known as Kilimo Hai. Kilimo Hai means safe organic produce. So we normally get groups of farmers, we train them for about 2 years, and then after that we take them through a group certification, which we call participatory guarantee systems, and we partner with different organizations. I know you've I think here in the hot seat you've actually had someone from KOAN, which is the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network. So we work very closely with them, and different like organizations like Henrich Ball, Pelham Kenya. We have different organizations.
See, what I'm asking is, how do we certify that when all these certified organizations have certified that what you're doing is organic?
Exactly.
If I were to get someone independent of all these groups, how do I guarantee that they will come up with the same results and say that, yes, indeed, it is safe? Or are we saying that because these organizations who are known have said it is safe, so we must therefore assume and take it for granted that it is safe?
No, we actually also have third-party certification, which we also use. So we actually have independent private people who are able to actually go out, meet the farmers, and make sure that what they're doing is the right thing. So you find that, you can't just stand up and speak. You actually must
Do we have a national body, like say Kenya Bureau of Standards, in the agricultural sector, that can play that oversight role in determining that these organic products are indeed organic and that they are indeed as nutritious as they claim? Because without a watchdog body that sort of like speaks to the standards and holds those who are in that particular market accountable to those standards, without it being there, good as what you're doing is, there'll always be rogue elements who come in to claim that their produce
is good,
meets the standards, and yet nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, let me just say something there. And that's what I wanted just to mention. Like, we have serious policy gaps, because, some of these things cannot be implemented unless we have a favorable policy environment. And what we have been doing and trying to work with the government is that we normally, we went to the Ministry of Agriculture and we asked them, what do you have in place to make sure that even as a ministry, you're actually able to check on the safety of food? They sent us to Ministry of Health. And Ministry of Health told us, now you're going to work with the Department of Public Health. Now, when you go to Department of Public Health, when they say now they're giving the babies the polio, whatever, they're doing, polio vaccines, they have so many other things. Safe food is at the back of the list. And so it becomes a place whereby now we only have to work with private institutions, and which is not very sustainable, and it's not able to actually affect or support the majority of farmers in the country.
There's this organization called CALRO.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Research Institute.
It used to be CARI, then there was ILRI, but now it's CALRO.
Yeah.
All right? They're a research organization.
They are.
They are the sort of institution that would have the wherewithal to do this thing that we are speaking of. Where do they come in?
It's bureaucracy. They're nowhere. Because we've asked, but they still send us back to Ministry of Health, and you have to go to Public Health. Because they say Public Health are the people who are in charge of the health of people. And then also, please note, we are dealing with double standards here. Because I think there was a bill, there was a food safety bill or policy that was actually passed, I think, if I'm not wrong, in 2021 by KEFIS. And the only reason KEFIS actually came up with that policy was because the countries where we export to, especially in the EU, said that unless you have a food safety bill that follows this recommendations or whatever, we will not import food from Kenya anymore. So they did a bill specifically, a policy, a food safety policy, specifically for export. So we went to KEFIS and told them, well enough, good, you're doing it because we're getting some market out there. What about us? They still sent us back to Ministry of Health, Public Policy.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Because I think about CALRO, and I think this is the organization who have brilliant minds and also have the mandate to provide this kind of information for the country. This is the same organization that came up with the blight potato, the blight-resistant and drought-resistant potato. This is the same organization who, if you walk into the doors, will tell you, this is how you can make up feed for your animals, and this is what you should be putting into them. This is the same organization who says the makeup of water in this area will not allow you to grow this crop. So it befuddles me then that we have a situation whereby the food that we are consuming is not up to scratch, literally, but that an organization which has the mandate to do this very same thing is not involved in the conversation.
Let me come in there and say that personally, I do appreciate the research that goes on at the Kenya Agriculture Research Institute.
Yeah.
But because if you look at the kind of scientists that in CALRO, we have got highly trained and competent researchers.
Yes.
And also on food nutrition, they are there. What I would really my concern is what Sylvia brought, that as a country we need to embrace the element of agroecology, for example, both principles and practice that will support the realization of safe food.
Okay.
Now, under the Ministry of Agriculture, I'm glad that we now have the agroecology strategy that is being worked on. And what I would really request is that our policymakers, our politicians who we listen to, need to be really embracing some of these initiatives that are going on at the technical level. Because we could be having a double speak, whereby we, at the technical level, these issues are being done, but they are not being amplified. Because we as the common mwananchi at the grassroots, we listen to our political leaders at the grassroots level. So how do they resonate? Our parliamentary, because, for example, we have got the food and I think it's a food and feed safety bill that is going on. I don't know if it has been tabled. I need to follow up on that. But you see, these are initiatives that we need to look at under which lens are these bills looking at when they are being pushed? Are they promoting the practices and the principles that are going to help us to realize, or are we at the tail end of the value chain? For example, you have a product, you say, I want to see how safe it is. But have you looked at how it has been produced?
You know, the role of politicians in this country is always a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
When you're talking about policies, politicians don't produce policies, they make laws. Policies are made by experts. And
Exactly.
And they tend to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now, politicians will speak to the policies that we are speaking of. But as I said, well, it's double-edged.
Yeah.
There's what they think the masses want to hear. There's what they think will promote their own interest. And very rarely is it something that they're actually doing for the common good.
Yeah.
Now, what we're discussing here is something that is at the center and at the heart and center of our livelihood.
Yeah.
Heart and center.
Absolutely.
Okay? If one went to the Ministry of Agriculture, you would find policy papers that speak to the very thing we're talking about here. We have those in an abundance. There's no question about it. It's like we archive them for other people to come and take and borrow and implement and make success out of. The issue here is the silo mentality where Sylvia and her group go to the parent Ministry of Agriculture and the can is kicked down the road and they end up in the Ministry of Health. And I'm wondering, Ministry of Health, do you have a situation where you go to the Ministry of Health and they take you to the Ministry of Agriculture to have a problem solved? You see, yes, they could. When you're talking about public health, you're talking about nutrition.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah.
But then, how is it that something that is this crucial and something that is very, very doable with an organization that is at the heart of it and has done wonderful research work? Do you know that the grass or the hay that cows eat in Australia and Brazil, that very variety that is so much in demand was actually homegrown and invented here?
That's the kind of science we have.
Yeah,
top-notch
this
scientists.
This thing we're speaking of, where all we require is these scientists to tell us that, look, everything that has been said is verifiable because this is what we've done locally. That's it. So that even when we have a stamp of approval from KEBS, we know that, you know something, this thing is actually safe. Not complicated. We're not importing the scientists. We're not importing the technology they need. We actually already have it. You see, this is my concern. So you have the capacity to do it. It's not being done. That is really it. Even what Sylvia and her group are doing, look at the circuitous route they followed. Go here, go to Enrich, go to Ball, go to who. You see,
go to agriculture, go to health.
Yes, exactly.
And I need just to reinforce what you've said, and we have started seeing it, which I think is a positive mark, and we appreciate at Heinrich Ball Foundation. You know, the PCPB is the regulatory body when it comes to issues of pesticides and the related products. And we have been pushing
Who's the
for
PCPB.
Sorry?
The PCPB.
The Poisons Board.
Okay, there we go.
Anyway, something poison.
No. I'm talking of the regulatory authority or the body that regulates the use, the registration and the use of the pesticides in Kenya.
Yes.
We have been working with them. We have been pushing for
So that's
the
the Pharmacy
withdrawal.
and Poisons Board.
Yes,
The
that's
equivalent.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
okay.
yeah.
And we have been pushing for the withdrawal of some of the highly hazardous pesticides.
Sure.
And we are lucky actually in July, and we really want to acknowledge PCBB for that initiative because we're able to withdraw 7 products out of the market. And this will be on a phased out approach up to December 2024. This will be phased out in the market. And we want to really request them to continue this trend because we have over, like Sylvia said actually, that the kind of usage of these pesticides amounts to 76% usage by volume are highly hazardous pesticides. And only 2% are biopesticides that we can say are safe. So what we are amplifying is for the PCPB to continue this initiative or with the withdrawal of these highly hazardous pesticides. And this comes to what you said, that kind of interlinkage within our agencies and the kind of work we are doing in this country will be supported by some such kind of initiatives. Coming back to the issue of KALRO, yes, we have got some of these research that have been done, and I just want to echo these are top-notch kind of research that is being done. But does it resonate with our policymakers like yours? Are they amplifying this message? Because these are the spokespeople of the common mwananchi.
Right.
They are people who are heard. A scientist will go to the grassroots, will not be heard as much as the politician.
Okay.
So we need these kind of results, these kind of policies to be articulated in a manner that it will be embraced. These kind of policy issues will be embraced by our politicians, by our decision makers, by our grassroots opinion leaders, maybe even the church leaders, so that they can be able to get this message. Just to finish this is that we are going to have on the 11th and 12th of October, we are going to have seed and food fair, whereby we are going to really amplify the management of our seeds, the indigenous seeds by our farmers. The kind of food, people like Sylvia, safe food that they give us. They are going to be they will be showcased at the museums of Kenya. We're inviting the public and as many people to attend. These are some of the initiatives whereby the public can be educated. There will be kind of amplification of this message to the wider public in a very simple way, in a manner that they can be able to appreciate. They can be interact with these scientists, with this organization. Ministry of Agriculture, KALRO will be attending, will be co-hosting this event with us. So let us, even our politicians, let them come. Let us hear what we are talking about.
We should leave politicians out of this discussion.
We need them.
No, we don't.
They are the ones who need to articulate this to the common mwananchi.
We actually don't.
Yes.
We don't.
Yeah.
Because,
yes.
Remember, they exist because we put them in those positions to articulate what it is that is of interest to us, something which they don't do very well.
But they can learn from us from such forums.
Now you've understood.
There you go.
You see, we have a situation that is inversed. The politicians should be following what we want them to do. If we amplify the politicians, then we will be following what they want us to do.
So they should come and listen what we are talking about, so they can be able to articulate.
If you come from an area where you are a progressive politician, thank God on your knees, and even fast if you can. Okay?
We throw this term around quite often, even as we talk about policy making and interventions for the future. But we throw the term organic around quite a lot, Sylvia.
Yeah.
And even looking at the growing of food and the eating of food, you just say, "Well, I eat organic." Okay, great.
Sounds bougie.
It sounds so bougie and grown and sexy and things like that. But what does it actually mean? If we say you're eating organic food, what does that mean?
So the simple definition is basically to say that you're eating food that has not been grown with synthetic inputs. That means the pesticides, herbicides, all those. And food that has been grown, putting into consideration nature. And that's why we have upgraded even the definition to agroecology, because we're really wanting to, farm in a way that is able to support diversity. So it's not just having 100 acres of organic cabbages, but, it's basically having, your cabbages that you've planted with beans, and you have some trees, and you have birds, and you have the bees, and you have different things that are really supporting nature. And also consuming also like the animals or meat that hasn't been injected with growth hormones, and avoiding the use of antibiotics unless the animals are unwell. So basically it's just eating safe, good food. Yeah.
Do we see that there is an appetite across from retailers to insist on organic food? Because that's also an intervention that I would see. Do we see that? To say that those who supply them, if it has not gone through these levels.
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question.
And actually, I really wanted to bring that up. Like, who is driving the markets? Is it the producers or the consumers? And I actually feel that sometimes, I'm sorry to say, but sometimes we eat what we deserve, because what happens is that we are pushing to have nice, beautiful produce without any spot or blemish, And because of that, what farmers have done, they're putting in every effort and every input to make sure that nice shiny tomato will get to you. And just know that this farmer, chances are, has 2 plots. They have the plot where they are growing their own food at home. They don't mind if it's going to be eaten by all the dudus and everything. And they have a plot that's going to this the market that is looking
the
very
nice and shiny one.
Yes.
Exactly.
So what happens is that they're the ones who have demanded. Consumers are saying, my food should look like this. And I'm not saying that organic is selling poor quality food that is looking, like disheveled and terrible. I'm not saying that. But, if consumers would actually stand up and say, I want to know where my food comes from. If you come to my shop at Sylvia's Basket, I can give you the name and the place of every product and the farmer. I know each and every farmer that supplies us. We are really small. We are not able to supply many people. We have a very small family that is, few people who are getting from us. We are hoping to expand, through these forums and all that. But the thing about it is, consumers should ask, where has my food come from? Who has grown my food? And how did they grow it? And when consumers start asking those questions to all their mamambogas, you'll find the mamambogas will be asking their suppliers. And their suppliers will be going back and telling the farmers, watu hawataki chakula ya dawa. We don't want this food that is full of pesticides. Farmers will convert.
Is it possible to have food through the country that is pesticide, herbicide, what? Fungicide free?
Yeah.
Is it possible?
It is.
It is large scale.
It is. But consumers have to start. We have to start that movement. People have to start saying. And even you have to make a choice not to eat that food. And even, the thing about it, we are a very small group, as you said, of few farmers here working in a silo. It's true. But the thing about it, if more people would demand for that good food, then you're going to actually push the demand to the farmers. The farmers now will be like, we have to change our ways. And then, because the thing about it, when you buy safe organic produce, you actually make more farmers grow safe organic produce. You encourage them. So it's us to push it all the way back to production.
That people are having the conversation because, the word in Kiswahili, kienyeji, that often pops up. And so we know that there's the thinking fundamentally where people understand, look, something that was, usually it's something that was homegrown,
exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That you would take your scraps from the kitchen and feed your chicken.
Exactly.
Isn't it? That goes on quite a lot.
Yeah.
Is that fundamentally sound in what we're talking about, that you would have compost? I mean, I saw there's a women's group who have compost their worms and it drips water.
I know,
and
yeah, worm juice. Worm juice.
Then they throw it into the farm and the maize is, fantastic. It doesn't have problems. Fundamentally, in our minds, like CT started off at the beginning, there's that idea that, we can grow food and the things around us we can use to, make sure that it's healthy. There's a push towards reintroducing or at least mainstreaming that idea. And how can we continue to harness that and use it today?
I think also we have to showcase, because seeing is believing. We have some very good examples of large-scale farmers who are actually, who have shown and actually grown really good food, like on a large scale, and be able to expose farmers and have those concepts, out there so that people can actually be able to see it. But sometimes, these stories are not out there, and that's why we need to have platforms where the stories are actually told and people can actually see. But it's actually possible. Like, let me give a very quick example. I went to Kitale. There's a place called Manor House, and they've been doing large-scale research on actually growing safe maize on hundreds and hundreds of acres. It's happening and it's working. But those stories are not out there. We don't know about it. But we need to amplify those stories and actually showcase, the success stories that have worked. But it is possible.
But
without a doubt,
who the real fight is with?
Yeah, tell me.
Because these fertilizers don't walk from wherever they walk from to come to Kenya.
No, they don't. Exactly.
Okay, they don't volunteer to come to Kenya. Now, so long as big pharma, big interests, big business is involved and the influence is big, I think you are right in your approach in that you are going to the consumer because that is the only bulwark you have against. Because if the buying public actually approve of your product,
demands.
That's it.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's true.
Aaron?
And I just want to come in. Thanks. I want to come in on that element of what do we do to create that demand. I've always been talking about, and I said earlier here about even our curriculum for our extension officers in agriculture.
Right.
let's align it to the concepts of the day and the practice. What Sylvia is doing, what Manor House is doing. It's happening. Why can't we tailor our curriculum so that the graduates we are producing, both from our TVET institutions, our mid-level colleges, our universities, it is not a curriculum that was adopted in 60s but being developed or being aligned to the current conventional or industrial agriculture. This has to change. It has to change. Secondly, our frontline extension workers need to be supported in a manner that they should be able to embrace agroecology practices or principles and practices, and also be able to convey these messages in a manner that farmers can be able to understand. We have seen what Sylvia is doing with her farmers. We have seen other networks of farmers who are practicing. Can we have that kind of extension, agriculture extension? The other one, like we recommended in this report, is about capacity building and knowledge exchange. When you talk about agroecology, is about local exchange of knowledge. Okay. There's that kind of work within a cluster. Let's see farmers how they can share this knowledge and exchange, so that at the end of it, we have said it's about 80% of farmers who give us food in this country. So these are the farmers who can be able to do it in small way and give us food. And so to answer your question, it's possible. It's possible. Because if we are getting 80% of our food from small scale farmers, these are farmers who Sylvia is working with, other people are working, and they are doing it. You can be talked to. Exactly. And they can be able to exchange this knowledge within themselves, within their cluster areas. Let's try and support. This is what Sylvia we are doing with her at Heinrich Ball Foundation. She's working in a cluster, working with small-scale farmers around her, and actually she ends up creating market for them because they can be able to offload their food.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Haran Waroi,